Hello, today we are going to make baked pasta. Um, it makes like a casserole dish and it'll feed a number of people. And if your family isn't real big, even if it is, if you have a salad with it, some garlic bread, it'll probably give you at least 2 meals. What I like about it is there's usually enough for at least lunch for me or my husband or both to take to work the next day. And it doesn't cost a whole lot. The most expensive thing was the ground beef. I got this at Aldi. It was about $6. The pasta sauce was under $3. The canned soup was around $1, and the pasta was just over $1. You can use any kind of pasta you want. I wouldn't use spaghetti, although you probably could. I like these pasta or mastacholi or penne because they're more bite-sized and they're kind of thicker and the sauce sticks to them. But you can use really whatever you want. So 6, 7, 8. So right now we're looking at about $12 for dinner. Oh, I did have to buy some mozzarella cheese, so we'll add a few bucks to that. So we're still looking at around $15 for dinner, which is pretty good. Well, this ground beef is frozen solid. So the way that I have found that seems to defrost it pretty well and pretty quickly is to put it submerged, all the way covered in some cold tap water. So I've got a cup here already that has some cold tap water in it, and I'm going to put my beef in there. I need to add just a touch more because it's not quite covered, but it's close. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to wait a little while, and then I'll come back and do the rest because I need this to thaw out for me. Okay, so my ground beef has been in water for about half an hour, and it's not defrosting as quickly as I would like. So we're gonna have to fast forward this, and we're gonna have to just take it out and put it in a pan and just kind of work with it, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so let me grab it and we'll get started. So here's my ground beef. It's been soaking in water. It's kind of squishy. It's starting to thaw out a little bit, but I can feel that the inside is still really hard. So you'll see it's got this little metal piece on the end. We're gonna use some scissors and cut right underneath that to open it up. And then we'll peel the plastic back and we'll put it in our pan. Okay, so here we have it. I'm gonna cut the tip off. Hopefully. Oh, a little bit of the juice is starting to leak out, so we'll just put it over the pan because it's not a problem. Okay, so I've got that mostly cut off, and then I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm just gonna slide them right down the side here, like that, and it just cuts it. So I'm gonna take that plastic off, and you can see some of the beef is thawed, but that's about all. The rest of it's pretty solid. So I'm just gonna take it out of the package, and I'm going to, actually I've got 2 pounds that I'm gonna use because this one was already thawed, and I had it in the fridge for close to a week, so I need to use this. So I'm gonna do 2 pounds of beef in mine. You don't need 2 pounds though, you can do whatever you've got. So I'm gonna throw these away and wash my hands, and then we'll be back to show you how to take care of this. Okay, so I've washed my hands, but I did wanna make one note about meat packaging. If you throw an empty package of meat in the garbage, it's gonna start to stink probably by the next day. So generally, like with the plastic wrappers like that, I just rinse them in the sink under some water and try to get the blood out. and any little bits of meat, and then throw away just the plastic. But if you have one of those like styrofoam trays that has the meat in it with plastic wrap, I still try to rinse those out, but then I try to kind of break those in half and put them in like a Kroger bag or a Walmart bag or bread bag that doesn't have any holes in it, and tie it up real tight. And then I take it straight outside to the garbage, because if you leave it inside, it's gonna be bad. It'll be stinky. So just wanted to make that note. So here I have my ground beef, and yes, I still have my Christmas spoon rest out. I haven't put that away even though it's almost August. But I'm gonna turn my, my stove is dirty, ignore that. This is the one I'm gonna use. You're gonna see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. And then you'll see, if I move this on my stove, there's 1, then under this pan, there's 2, and then 3, and then the big one's 4, and then right where the spoon rest is, there's another one, and this one is just to keep warm. At least that's what my stove is. So you know which burner to turn on because it gives you a diagram. This is the front right, front left, back right, back left. So this one is the front right, and this one is the back right. I'm going to use the big circle here. So you can see that a little better. Move this. So there's my big circle. My stove's a little dirty. But I'm going to use the big one because it's a big pan. So I'm going to turn on the front one. I'm going to turn it on about medium because I don't want to burn my meat. But I do want to get it going. While that is heating up, I've got some water over here in a pan, and I need to turn it on as well. Now, I use these a lot, and you can see the little markings are kind of rubbed off. But because I know my stove, I've even tried to use a marker and put it back on there because I love this stove. I'm going to turn it on high because I want to get my water boiling to cook my pasta. So back to the ground beef. I'm going to use a spatula like this because metal can scrape a pan, and you don't want to scrape your pan. And these look different because they have different fat contents in them. This one on the left has 80% fat, which is common. The one on the right, I think, is, or not 80% fat, it's 80% meat, 20% fat. The one on the right, you can see the color difference. It has a lot less fat in it. It's less, it's darker colored. So, and the fat is lighter colored. So that's what you see there. So you've got the darker colored here with less fat. And I don't remember how much fat and meat ratio was in that one. But there we go. Okay. Okay, so I have put an apron on. You can't see it yet, but I have, because when you're cooking meat, it can pop and splatter on you, and grease can ruin your clothes. I will talk about this, I'm sure, in a later episode, but if you get grease on your clothes, use a drop of Dawn dishwashing soap on the spot, and then kind of use your hands and scrub it. Like rub the fabric together to agitate it. And that will generally get it out. But we'll talk about that some other episode. But what you can see here is that I am just scraping off the meat as it starts to thaw. And if you turn it over, you can see where it's starting to brown. So it's starting to cook. I do not like doing it this way. It takes a long time, longer than it should. And it's labor intensive because you're constantly scraping the meat off, and the meat that's already on there, like this stuff over here, has a more chance of burning. So you just kind of have to really keep on top of it and keep scraping it. If I wanted to, I could put a lid on this if I had one that fit, and I do. But I hate washing lids that have grease splattered on them, because just grease is just kind of a pain. So I try to avoid that whenever possible. So I'm just going to whine about how long it takes rather than get a lid out, put the lid on, and let the steam do a lot of the defrosting for me. So I will come back in a little bit once this is mostly browned. Okay, you can see it's starting to brown. And when you're browning meat like this, you want to kind of keep turning it over so that the pink part can get on the bottom and get cooked. You also want to keep crumbling it. You don't want it to cook into big old chunks. You got to be careful though, because you don't want the grease to splatter you. Grease burns hurt and they can be bad. So you have to be gentle with it. I just keep kind of stirring it around until all the pink is gone. You can see my other frozen little tube over here struggling to defrost, but it's getting there. And I just keep working at it. You can also see the liquid there at the bottom. Part of that is water, which is rising as steam, and part of that is the grease, the oil. And I will discuss how to get some of that drained off in just a second. But I'm gonna finish this up and then come back once it's all not pink anymore and it's all done. Okay, you can see it's pretty well browned. You can also see that liquid there, that's grease. And so the way I'm gonna do this, there's any number of ways you can do it. My mom used to dump it into a colander and drain all the grease out that way. She'd put the colander on like a sheet pan or something and put paper towels under it, dump all that on there. But I'm not gonna do that because, like I said before, I'm kind of lazy. So I use a measuring cup or something like that and a glass bowl, and I folded up some paper towel. I'm going to shove that in there. I'm using glass because if the grease is really hot, a plastic bowl will melt. So I'm going to scoop up as much of this as I can, and I'm going to dump it in here. I'm going to put the phone down, which I'm recording with, so I can actually use two hands. I'm going to have to tilt the pan towards me a little bit so I can get as much of this as possible. Okay, so I did not get it all, but I got most of it. Now I'm going to let this grease cool. And once it cools, I'm just going to take the paper towel and put it in a little sandwich Ziploc bag, or you can put it in a Kroger bag or whatever, and put it in your garbage. You'll know it's cool because it'll start to get solid. I mean, if it's solid, you know it's cool. It'll start cooling pretty quick, and you'll feel it with your hand, and then you can just put it in the garbage when it's cool enough to not melt the plastic. So my water is just about ready. This is a slow boil. You see the bubbles at the bottom. I'm gonna wait till it gets to what's called a roiling boil. And that is when you've got big bubbles popping up to the top. It's not far from that. But while we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and open my pasta. I can do that with one hand. There we go. And we're going to dump that in when it's boiling really well. Now, the directions say to put some salt in there if desired. I never put salt in there, but you can. You can see the bubbles are starting to pick up, and you can tell on the top it is not a roiling boil yet because the bubbles will look big on the top. So we're going to wait just another minute and come back when it's a rolling boil. Okay, so this is taking a while to get to a boil. I don't know why. It doesn't usually take this long, but I think it's boiling enough. but you can see the bubbles like right over in there coming to the top. It would be like doing that all over if it was really truly a rolling boil. Now, the directions say to boil 4 quarts of water. I don't really know how much water I have in there, but I know from experience that it's enough. You can add pasta or add salt if you want. I'm not going to do that. I just usually don't. Add the pasta, return it to a boil. Come on. Stir occasionally, boil it uncovered 9 to 11 minutes or until desired tenderness. Then you remove it from the heat and drain it. So now it's boiling pretty well. So I'm going to use the same spatula that I used for my hamburger. By the way, I took about half of my hamburger out and I put it in a bowl over here because I'm going to let it cool, and then I'm going to put it in the freezer because I don't think I need that much meat in my pasta. But I did need to cook it because it had been sitting for almost a week, so needed to get it cooked. So now I'm going to give this a little stir. I'm going to set the timer for 9 minutes. Now when you're cooking pasta, there's a term called al dente, A-L space D-E-N-T-E. And it means that the pasta's cooked, but there's a slight little crunch in it. And apparently Italians like it that way. I don't know. I don't particularly like it that way. So I like to cook it for the full amount of time, and then I will take one out and I'll check it and taste it and see if it's cooked all the way through. If not, then I give it another minute or two. But this is supposed to come back to a full boil and then start your timer. But I've started my timer anyways because I'm going to end up putting this in the oven, and the pasta will continue to bake in the oven. So if it's not totally cooked right now, it's not a big deal. However, if you were just going to cook pasta and dump some sauce on it and maybe some ground beef or whatever, then you'd want to be sure that the pasta's cooked to whatever your liking is. So you can see it's starting to boil. I'm going to keep stirring it, and if you don't watch it, eventually this will really get boiling and it'll boil over, which isn't a huge deal. You just have to be sure that you have enough water to cover the pasta, and then you're going to have a mess to clean up. So we're going to let this cook, and then we'll be back. Okay, so our pasta's got a few minutes left to cook, and we can start mixing up the other stuff, and we can grease our pan. When we did the zucchini brownies, I put some oil on a little corner of paper towel and I rubbed it all over the pan, which you can do. I like to do that when I'm baking because I don't like to have too much oil in it, but for a casserole or something like this, you just don't want things to stick to your pan. I'm just gonna spray it right on there. Oh, for some reason, that's not spraying very well. That came out, I'll show you. That just came out like in squirts. I don't know if you can see. Now that kind of came out in squirts. That did not spray like it's supposed to. So I'm gonna get a little piece of paper towel, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that with this like I did with the brownies anyways. So I got a little piece of paper towel, and now I'm just gonna rub it all in here to spread out the grease because I want everything covered. Whatever isn't covered is gonna have sauce and cheese and stuff sticking to it. So you want all your sides and your corners and everything to be covered. I don't know why that didn't come out any better than it did, but regardless. There we go. Now our pan is greased so that it won't stick, and I'm gonna throw this in the garbage. Okay, so this recipe doesn't have a whole lot of ingredients to it. Has a box of cooked pasta, a pound of ground beef that you cook, a can of cream of chicken or cream of mushroom soup, a jar of your favorite spaghetti sauce, it doesn't matter what flavor or what kind, and some mozzarella cheese. I got 2 of these bags at Aldi. So first, just in case you don't know how to use a hand can opener, I'm gonna try to show you this. see the can has these ridges, and you see the little round pieces here on the can opener. So what I'm gonna do, see if I can put it where you can see it. I'm gonna take the top sharp one and put it right on the inside edge of the lip of that can, and then I'm gonna squeeze. And you heard that click. That was the blade puncturing the lid. And then I'm gonna squeeze it with my left hand and hold it closed, and then I'm gonna turn this little knobby here, and it holds pretty tightly if you hang on to it. So I'm gonna turn the knobby until it gets all the way around, and then it usually starts to kind of pop up a little bit once it's just about all the way through. So now I'm gonna pull this off. Gotta be very, very careful though, because this edge and this edge inside can be very, very sharp. So I'm going to dump this into my bowl, and I'm gonna scrape, come the other side so you can see it, because I'm right-handed. So I'm gonna scrape the inside, and we wanna get all of that soup, as much as we can, in there. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good. Another scrape here. Okay. So we want all of that in there, and then we want to dump our sauce in, and sometimes these lids don't want to come off. Now, you know that it's sealed tightly. You see this little button here? If you push it and it doesn't pop, it's sealed tightly. So I'm going to try to open it, but sometimes, sometimes it's too hard. So there's a couple ways you can do it. The old school way is to take the handle of a table knife, the thick end, and just kind of go around and tap it and try to break the seal a little bit so that you can take it off. Now, I also have a gadget, looks like this, that I use sometimes. I'll put the lid back on and show you how it works. By the way, now that I've unsealed it, you can see how this lid pops. You can hear it. So the way this gadget works, you take the edge right here, you put it under the lip of the can, and then you just pull up, and you'll hear the pressure release. You'll hear it go, and then you can take the lid off. So I'm gonna take that off, and I'm gonna dump that in with my soup. Now, one way you want to get all the stuff out of here that you can. So one way that I like to do it is I like to put just a touch of water in here and then shake it. So I barely put any water in there, but I put it in there. I'm gonna shake it and then dump it in, because we don't want to lose any of that yummy flavor. And you may have heard my buzzer go off. That was my pasta getting done. So we can stir this, and we'll stir it more in just a minute. So this is a rolling boil. And I'm going to dump most of the water out, but I'm going to keep a little bit of it, because I learned a trick a few years ago from the cook at the daycare where my kids went, my friend Michelle. And she taught me that if you keep a little bit of the pasta water and put it in with your pasta, it makes it taste creamier. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna drain most of the water out. I'm gonna keep just a little bit, and then I'm going to dump that in with my sauce. Okay, so I want to show you dumping this out. And you have to be very careful with the steam, because some people have pots that have lids that fit on them. Anytime you're taking a lid off of anything hot that you're cooking, you always want to pull the lid up away from you and then lift the side that's closest to you, because that steam's going to escape and it'll burn you. It hurts. So I'm gonna just hold my spatula here to try to prevent the pasta from escaping, although every now and again, sometimes I'll get a stray noodle. Okay, so now I drained most of my pasta. You can see there's a little bit of water down in there, not a lot. So I'm gonna bring this over and dump it in with my sauce and my soup. Be careful the steam doesn't get you because it's hot. And I'm going to dump in my ground beef and a package and a half of the cheese. That probably ends up being about 3 cups. Okay, so I've dumped my beef in here and about a package and a half of my cheese. And so now I'm just gonna mix all of that up really well. And once I get it mixed, I'll be ready to dump it into my greased pan. Okay, so I've got it pretty well mixed. You can see that some of the cheese is melting already because it's just hot. And I'm going to dump it into my pan. And I'm going to scrape my bowl so we get all the good stuff. Okay, so it's all in the pan, and now all I have to do is sprinkle the rest of my cheese on the top. So I'm gonna reach in and do it with my hand because I wanna be sure that it gets all over. There's not a ton left. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit, whatever's left on the top. Couple of handfuls though, so I guess it's more than I thought. Try to get a little bit all over. And I'm just gonna dump the rest in here. Pick up the parts I dropped. I don't want to miss any of that. Okay. Now I'm gonna put it in the oven at 350. I've already preheated my oven. And I'm gonna bake it for 30 minutes. Or until it's bubbly and you can tell it's hot. So here's the hamburger grease now that it's cooled, and you can see that it's not clear anymore. It's cloudy and it's thick. So I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna put it in a little Ziploc bag, and then I'm gonna close it up and put it in the garbage. I'm gonna put it in a Ziploc bag, and then I'm gonna take another one and wipe out the bottom as much as I can and put that in the bag too. Okay, so we know that it's done for a couple of reasons. You can see it's bubbling on the edges and the cheese is melted. You could leave it in a little longer if you want the cheese to get a little browner, but I like it like this. So then you're gonna scoop it up. I'm gonna use this spoon because it's got a big bowl and it's solid. This guy I don't wanna use because if you use this, you can see it's gotten a little hot. Those bubbles, but if you use this, you're gonna have cheese in all of those little holes and you're gonna have to clean them. And again, I don't like to do anything the hard way. I'm lazy. So I'm gonna use the solid bowl. And you scoop it out. Put it on your plate. And you can make a salad or garlic bread or both, and there you have it. It's really hot right now. You're gonna probably need to let it cool a little bit before we eat it, but it is all done.